I'm Dalton.
And I'm Clinton.
And this is the LA Do Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LA Do Podcast, where we talk about everything from movies to comics to video games and everything in between. We are back from a very long hiatus, around 3 weeks, and I'll tell you why we were on a hiatus. It's because our stuff messed up. Our mics, generously given to us by Clinton's girlfriend Alexia, messed up. They gave out on us, literally as we were about to record this very episode, around this time 3 weeks ago. This was also it was a weird time because after it got messed up, we also had to get new equipment. And with the help from our friends, Grace and Larry, they helped us link us some websites to get some new equipment. Wasn't horribly expensive, and we are now recording on that. We got 2 new mics and a new mixer, which is amazing. I will say it is much clearer audio. I love it. It is amazing. I'm hoping we don't mess this up. But some things have happened in the last few weeks that we've been away. And one of those happens to be the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman around 2 weeks ago. He was fighting cancer. I don't remember the specific type. Do you?
Was it colon?
I think it might have been colon cancer. He was diagnosed in 2016, and this was it was not during the filming of Captain America Civil War. I think that was mostly done in 2015. So he was diagnosed probably around the end of the run on Captain America Civil War, and he kept it secret. He kept it private. I applaud him for that because you don't want to worry people about that stuff. And it was kept to mostly family and close friends, and he had many roles during that time. He was, of course, Black Panther in 2018. A little voice crack, but in 2018 he portrayed T'Challa, Black Panther, in his second time using role after Civil War. He was in Infinity War and Endgame, as well as non-Marvel projects such as, I think it was The Five Bloods, I believe, was one of the most recent ones that he was in. I think it was 21 Bridges, which was another Russo brothers, the directors of Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, and The Winter Soldier. It was one of their most recent projects. And he was battling through cancer throughout that. And it's sad to see him, for him to pass away so soon.
Yeah,
and he wasn't horribly old either.
Yeah, he was 43, I think he was, and he recorded, not recorded. I'm sorry, he filmed all those movies, and he ended up with stage 4 colon cancer, and it's just, I applaud him for what he did for us as viewers. And even though it's been 2 weeks, it's been a rough 2 weeks, especially knowing then when we found out it was not too long after the news broke it, and then we just figured out and realized that we couldn't do we couldn't do an episode and announce it sooner than now, but we're here now, and
I'm a little glad that we didn't, just because I feel like if you say someone puts out a podcast about him too soon, or talks about a YouTube video or anything like that too soon about him, then you get, you're almost banking off of somebody's death.
Very true. And
horrible.
And obviously that's something we would never want to do.
And that goes into something that also happened recently with Elizabeth Olsen, who portrayed Scarlet Witch in the MCU. She got major backlash over not posting a picture of Chadwick Boseman after he passed away. But people have to realize people grieve in their own ways. Maybe she didn't want to post a picture and get a bunch of, thousands of likes and thousands of comments.
Maybe she just wanted to stay away from social media just to see what
Well,
people were saying.
she actually deactivated her account, I think, after that because she got so much hate over nothing, over her choosing to grieve in her own way. It's the same thing that happened with when Cameron Boyce died. It was I forget her name. I think it was Dove Cameron. It was Dove Cameron. She decided to grieve in her own way, and she didn't make a post about it. And then people started attacking her for it. And he died pretty young.
Very.
But it's the same way with that. You don't want to bank off of somebody's death. Or you don't want to bank off of somebody's life. Like somebody just being born, like a famous couple just having a kid. You don't want to do that. And that's why I'm kind of glad that we didn't do that, just because it would have been too soon. You got to let things kind of go down so that people don't see you in the wrong light, and you just got to do it out of respect.
Yeah.
But
without, obviously, like you were saying, you don't want someone to bank off of someone passing and all of that. But I don't know if it'll be soon. I don't know if it'll be later. I don't know who will be in it. I don't know if it will be me and Dalton, or if, our friend Grace and Larry, or our buddy Chance and Ethan. I would like to do a tribute episode at some point. Whether it be 2 weeks from now or 6 months from now, but only for the respect of the work that he did. And that's what this podcast is about. I was looking at works of art, whether it be video games or comics, and I feel like it's something it would be nice to do. So somewhere on down the line.
But moving on, let's go ahead and get into today's topic. Let's try to be more positive in this episode.
Yeah.
Because today's episode is the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 3 Part 1. Because this phase has too many movies.
Yeah.
The other two phases had 6 movies. This one has 11. And it spanned all the way from Civil War back in 2016 to last year, ending with Far From Home. Phase 4 was supposed to begin this year with Black Widow, but of course that's been delayed. So in total, these movies, I'm gonna try to get this in order. It starts from Captain America: Civil War to, I believe, Doctor Strange, because that was 2016. I keep thinking it's 2017. Then it goes to, I think Guardians Volume 2 came out, and then Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming, and then Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Endgame, and Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Pretty correct.
I think that's the exact one, because I think Far From Home not Far From Home, sorry. Homecoming came out after Guardians. Because I remember seeing Guardians during May of 2017, and then Spider-Man was around July 4th. It was in like June or July, around that time. I remember that. Some of these movies, we've been a little late to the party. I didn't watch Thor Ragnarok until 2018. I know Clinton didn't watch Ragnarok until recently. And
very true.
For
this podcast episode, actually, I kind of did it here recently.
Then we just didn't want to watch Captain Marvel for so long, and I'll explain. I'll explain why. I'm just not into it. But starting the list off, let's talk about I should probably mention first.
Actually, you mind me saying something really quick?
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know if Dalton's list is the same as mine, but especially mine, I'll say it for both of us. They're unpopular opinions, and I just want everyone to know that
some of them may be popular with a certain group of people. Some people may have agreed with this. Some people may not. Some films that I don't really like, I'm probably not going to go into great detail with, but some of this list was really hard to make, just because I had to think. It's like, all right, what did I like more than this? Would I like more than that? Where would it fit where Clinton's not going to argue with me?
Yeah. But
especially with my top 5.
The reason why I wanted to bring this one up is because it's a longer list, and there are some of the best Marvel movies in this phase. So I just wanted, to go ahead and say that if our number 1, if our number 11, if they're not yours, that's totally okay. And I feel that if your favorite Marvel movie is Incredible Hulk, like we've talked bad about before, that's okay. That's your opinion, and I'm totally okay. I don't agree with that, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to
That's
hate
okay.
you for that.
It's okay to not
I don't
agree.
hate anyone, so
Everyone has their own opinions. It's okay to not agree.
exactly. So I just want to get that out there before we begin this, because I know there's been people in the last couple episodes who have been like, I disagree entirely, and so I just wanted to make that, I wanted to let you guys know that I understand if we have different opinions, but it is our opinions in this episode, so that is a note. But we can go ahead and begin. Thank you.
Well, I was gonna go ahead and get into it.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
No, I'm glad you stopped me, because I need to say that this episode, this is a part 1 episode, like I said, so it's only gonna be from our least favorite Phase 3, which is number 11, all the way to number 6. And then in the part 2 for Phase 3, we're just gonna do 5 through 1. That's all I need to say. But now,
let's get into it.
I don't know if we both have the same number 11.
Oh, we absolutely do, but I'm not gonna make fun of it this time, because I felt bad for the last couple. But go ahead.
Number 11 is Captain Marvel, and I'll explain why I don't like Captain Marvel. One of the main reasons is because it basically tries to say that she was the start of the Avengers, because that was apparently her nickname in the Air Force. Just like how in Top Gun, Tom Cruise's character, Maverick, has the nickname Maverick. It is her nickname, her call name. And it's Avenger. And at the end of the movie, Nick Fury looks at it because he's starting up the Avengers Initiative. It's some other name. I don't remember what it was. But then calls it the Avengers Initiative after her. It inserts history that probably didn't need to be there. And it almost retcons Nick Fury's eye. Because in Winter Soldier, he says, the last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. Apparently, he trusted a cat. And that's who he lost his eye to. Or at least he has his eye bandaged. I don't know if I can't remember if it's explicitly said or hinted at that his eye was truly gone, but I know his eye is bandaged. After the cat, I think it's called a Flerken, is the species name, claws his eye. And he says, Mother Flerken. And I swear, it's like a couple films. It's at least 2 of the last few films in the MCU that has teased Sam Jackson dropping the F-bomb. And he just needs to do it already. He needs to drop the F-bomb already. They've also teased it in the last 2 Spider-Man movies, and it's making me mad. They just need to do it. Introduce Deadpool with that. Have him randomly show up in a Spider-Man. In the next Spider-Man film, just have him randomly show up and just drop the biggest F-bomb. The biggest drawn-out F-bomb. Because they've been teasing it at the end of both films for so long. Just do it. But back to Captain Marvel. It's just... And it's also the Skrulls. The Skrulls are bad. They're bad people. Especially the Super Skrull in the comics. They can change into anybody. The Super Skrull attempts to take the powers of the Fantastic Four. He's one of their main villains. And it's just... It retcons... It doesn't retcon because the Skrulls didn't exist, to our knowledge, in the MCU before. But it kind of changes their comic book characters to be more sympathetic. And it's not... That just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. And having Marvel... I get when people switch the genders of comic book characters. Happens all the time. It's happening in the Eternals. That's coming out soon. I believe 2021. But having Marvel, I thought Jude Law's character was going to be Marvel, and it wasn't. And then it's like a random woman that's Marvel, and I didn't like the reveal. I didn't like any of that. I didn't like how the Kree were all the bad guys trying to exterminate everyone. And then I'm just not a fan of Brie Larson. I'm gonna put that out. I'm not a fan of her. I think she's kind of stuck up. And I think Don Cheadle agrees with me, the man who plays War Machine. I'm pretty sure because in certain interviews that he's had with her, he's just like, his facial expression is just like, shut up. Like, he doesn't, because she says she's the strongest. She can take out any of the Avengers. She can beat any of the Avengers. And to a certain extent, that is empowerment. But when she does it, it's just ego. And not even the Living Planet type of ego. We'll get to that later. Or I might. I don't know. I don't know if it's on Clinton's list, but I'm just not a big fan of Captain Marvel. I was hopeful. Ending of Infinity War, I was hopeful. I was hopeful for Marvel, Captain Marvel, and it's just didn't. No, Brie Larson. I would have chosen someone else for Brie Larson. I would have done it in a heartbeat. But anyway, I know Clinton was gonna keep quiet because it's like
No, actually, I'll speak about it. And the only reason I wanted to keep a little quiet about this movie is only because I've watched it only once.
oh, and, before Clinton goes,
Go ahead.
I will say at least the one thing it does right is that it at least explains how Shield got the Tesseract.
Okay, yeah.
Because that was basically the reason she has her powers is because Project Pegasus, which was referenced in Iron Man 2, along with another project that some people are, is Project Exodus, which many people are thinking is going to be Weapon X, Wolverine. Who knows? That was a new Rockstar theory. I know that for a fact. Go check them out on YouTube. This is not sponsored at all. I just really like new Rockstars. But
This is like the third time you've brought them.
I like new Rockstars, okay?
Okay,
They're fun.
I understand.
man.
I understand, and it is a plug for them.
They do a lot of. Well, they don't need it.
They don't need it. No.
They have twice, 3 times as many subscribers as we do. I think they have a lot, but
yeah.
it's just good. I enjoy some of their videos, especially when it talks about rumors or doing deep dives into the films. But that was the whole reason for her power was the Tesseract, and it shows up later in the film because the stupid cat throws it up onto the desk in Nick Fury. Another reason why I don't like that movie. But continue, please.
Anyway, I've only watched it once, so I feel like I don't have much room to talk about it, whether it be positive or negative. But pretty much all I have to say is that it's not even like me and Dalton's Brie Larson opinions are a little different. I just don't like her acting style. And
Her acting style is just so.
and I'm not saying that
bland.
she's bad. I'm saying that it's a basic acting style, and I just felt that wasn't it wasn't something that should be as. Captain Marvel's characters is an outstanding character, and I think it really shows how strong a female superhero can be. But
in recent years, her character has become kind of poorly written because, especially in Civil War 2, the most recent comic event, it just hasn't, like, her character has been bad, like, written bad. And it's not just me saying that. Like, I've seen a bunch of readers talk about in Civil War 2 how bad her character was written, and just they didn't like her. And it's been bad, dude, especially recently.
I understand, and I just wish they would have done better with the movie.
Same, but it's the past. It's getting a sequel, unfortunately. But
maybe it'll be better.
Doubt it. Moving on, let's go into our number 10. Unfortunately, it is Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the only reason I say that, because it is my number 10, I know it's Clinton's number 10.
Yes.
Is because it was just used as filler between Infinity War and Endgame.
Which it doesn't deserve.
I mean, yeah, it does. It should have been a true sequel, but it didn't turn out that way, which sucks. It really sucks because the first Ant-Man was really good and had everything good. Paul Rudd was good, the writing was good, even Luis was good. I didn't like Luis in this film. I didn't like him,
or at least not as much.
It's just the writing in general just didn't seem that good. Voice crack, but I was just not a fan because it didn't do anything but set up the quantum realm, which was used heavily in Endgame in its plot. That's all it really was there for, and to set up the fact that Ant-Man was stuck in the quantum realm when Thanos snapped. That's all it did, and I'm glad it brought in Lawrence Fishburne, but other than having his character explain kind of how Ant-Man would try to grow and become Giant Man, it really his tie and Lawrence Fishburne's character's tie with I think she was just called Ghost. I think that was her name. Like it was weird having that tie in, and then the fact that Ghost was such a subpar villain. She didn't even die in the end of the film, which is a good thing. It can mean that she come back in later installments, but just her character, it was just not good. Like, she's just phasing in and out of reality. Reminded me of Tracer from Overwatch a lot in that film, but just the fact that that character was just not good for me. The way it was written, the way that the film was portrayed, how he was just under house arrest this entire time and just doing stupid things. It was still more enjoyable than Captain Marvel, just because of Paul Rudd, but like, I was just not a fan of it. And it is really sad to say, because Ant-Man was a really good film, and I was really hoping that the second one would be good, because this is also, this is Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is the first time that the Wasp was getting a proper introduction into the MCU as the character of the Wasp. Seeing the fact that she was one of the founding members of the Avengers in the comics, she's finally getting her due. And then it was very just subpar, and she gets dusted in the end anyway. So it didn't really matter all that much. What are your thoughts?
I mean, a lot of what you just said is how I actually feel, but I mean, this movie wasn't. Let me go ahead and say this movie wasn't bad by any means. This movie was horrible. Not bad. Compared to Captain Marvel, this thing is a masterpiece.
And compared to Incredible Hulk, this thing is like Godfather level. I was gonna say the director's name, but
it's literally Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, it's like I forgot the director's name of Godfather, but I was gonna say his name, but I can't remember his name.
It's like Incredible Hulk's Raiders, and Captain Marvel is
Crystal Skull.
Yeah,
that bad.
And then you have Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's probably like the second one.
To put it in a different perspective, compared to Captain Marvel, Incredible Hulk is Empire Strikes Back. Captain Marvel is just Jar Jar scenes in Phantom Menace. That's how bad.
Now you're giving a little bit too much praise. I would have said anything from Last Jedi.
Yeah, I would have compared it to The Last Jedi.
I would have given Jar Jar to Dark World, because at least he's not too bad, but he's pretty bad.
Then we would have had people getting mad at us for saying that The Last Jedi was horrible, and it was. It's the worst Star Wars film in history. We'll get to Star Wars sometime later. I'm not doing it immediately, but
do you know that Real Brad from Confirmed Epic made that like number 3 on his Star Wars?
And it surprises me. I haven't even watched that episode of the podcast.
Like, I'm not bashing.
I'm
not bashing him. I'm not bashing his episode, because I loved that episode of the podcast with his friend.
That is their own opinion, and
I'm not bashing it.
And everybody has their own opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and it's great that you have your own opinion. We differ.
Have you ever been watching a video on YouTube at like 2:30, 3 a.m., and then there's something that just wakes you up? That was what it was. My number 3 is The Last Jedi, and I woke up so quick. I was like, no. But I'm not going to fuss about it. We got on the
biggest tangent. We will do Star Wars sometime later and rank all the films and talk about them. I don't know if we should just do the entire Skywalker saga or include Solo and Rogue One. We might. I don't know. That's another 11 films.
We just rewatched them, so we should probably.
I know, and we already made a list about it.
We'll do it in a bit.
But
yeah.
we'll see.
The list has been made. Let's go ahead. The list has been made. But
we've done comic book movies, and we're going to continue talking about the list in a moment. But we've done comic book movies. Maybe we might venture off into video games after Part 2 comes out. I don't know yet. We'll have to decide on what comes next, since we're getting back into
I really want to get into Harry Potter. I know we went off the Marvel thing for a second, but I really want to get into Harry Potter.
Oh, we'll see about that too. But anything else to add about Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Okay, with Ant-Man and the Wasp, sorry, I was like, where were we? But Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think that, like I said, compared to Captain Marvel, this thing's a masterpiece. And the movie, honestly, is not that bad at all.
It's not horrible.
It's the thing, and it's not, I wouldn't even say it's not that bad. It's not bad at all. It's just the whole thing of, it's a filler. And sometimes your filler movies are just they're not made the best. It's a little rushed. I don't really know how else to say that. So, I mean, that's, I don't want to continue talking about this movie that much, because I don't want to talk bad about it. But I also don't have many great things to say about it. I'm just going to say it's a good movie. I would probably rewatch it at some point, and then I'm done talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk bad about it, because it really doesn't deserve it. Paul Rudd doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, he does.
Because of all his great work he did with the original Ant-Man and Endgame and all that. So I would say this is a good movie, but it has to be number 10, especially when we're talking about Phase 3, which is like God level tier Marvel movies for the most part.
Moving on, and so that we don't get on another tangent about Star Wars. Number 9. What is your number 9 so I can compare it real quick?
My number 9 is Civil War.
My God. Good God. I know you don't like Civil War, but come on.
How would you feel if I were to tell you that it really was going to be number 10 and I was going to make Ant-Man and the Wasp number 9 for a bit?
It doesn't surprise me seeing you. I want you to talk about Civil War first because Civil War is higher on my list.
Let me tell you why it's my number 9. So let me tell you the bad reasons first, so I can talk about good things. Some bad things were that I just didn't like the whole Tony Stark and Steve Rogers bit. I didn't think that like that was the entire them just being head and head. Like I understand that's how things were, but
well, it's how everything led up to that point.
Yeah,
we had in the first Avengers, they were arguing with each other, almost coming to blows. In Age of Ultron, same thing. In this film, it finally comes to a head, just like in the comics.
What I want to say
called Civil War.
What I want to say about this with them going at it. In this
movie, I will put
this.
It's nowhere near the same level as the Russos when they did Winter Soldier. It's nowhere near that. I will say that. But come on.
Well, we're not arguing about our feelings about movies.
I know, but still.
But I just didn't like. So it's a Captain America movie. It's Captain America: Civil War, right? And I feel like at first they were trying to really make it like, oh, Tony Stark's the bad guy right now, and yeah, he's not really happy with Captain America, and Captain America's the good guy. But really, if you watch that movie, I think I've watched it 2-3 times maybe.
Watched it a few times.
They're both kind of bad guys.
Well, they're both kind of bad guys. More in the film than in the comic, because in the comic, especially towards the end, I know Captain America was kind of seen more as the villain, especially by the public eye, and that's why he turns himself in. In this, it's different because, Captain America sees, the Sokovia Accords, which is different than in the comics where it was, I think it was the Superhero Registration Act, where superheroes had to register with the government, tell them their real names, everything like that. And Captain America didn't want to do that. He thought that, that was a violation of rights. Just like the Sokovia Accords, it's a violation of rights. The Avengers, they were said by Thunderbolt Ross, seen as more as vigilantes, which, I mean, given the circumstances, they were, fighting aliens and a rogue robot that Tony Stark made, and I'm trying to think. It was also DC. It was Winter Soldier. That was Hydra. That was Hydra's fault. That wasn't the Avengers' fault. Like Thunderbolt Ross tried to pin the blame on them when an attack on New York. That was Loki. The Avengers were brought in to stop him. In Winter Soldier, Hydra was doing. They were gonna try to kill a bunch of people. Captain America tried to stop it. That's not his fault. Age of Ultron. It was Tony's fault. And Hulk's fault, but Hulk's off planet at this point. It's Tony's fault. And the fact that they were blaming them for the destruction of a whole entire town. That wasn't their fault. It was Tony's fault. But it wasn't the rest of their fault. They were just trying to stop it. Tony Stark has made so many villains in the MCU, it is insane.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore. But he's made, even after his death, he made so many. Or he made one.
I love you 3000, but
he has been the. Let me see how many villains he's created. He created.
You do that, and I'll keep thinking about what I was going to say before you interrupted.
Sorry. He created Ironmonger because Ironmonger decided to create his own armor and kill Tony once and for all. He created Whiplash by just his own, creation of the arc reactor, and I think it was something to do with Whiplash's past that had him hate Tony. He created the Mandarin, the fake Mandarin.
I don't even blame Tony Stark for Whiplash. I blame the movie for Whiplash.
Exactly. But and then the fake Mandarin. He in the beginning of the film, he was just like a small little guy, pretty much. And Tony blew him off, and that created a villain.
Yeah, but let's be honest, that was a I'm not saying Tony Stark was a great guy when he was in the Avengers, but I'm not saying he was a worse guy than he was in that, that scene of that movie from like the year 2000.
No.
Tony Stark was a pretty bad guy.
But he also created Ultron. He created the Vulture. He created Mysterio. Like, come on.
Those are some pretty good villains, though. I don't.
Oh, yes,
I'll give him that.
but still, he created those villains because of his actions, and it's just he was responsible for so many villains in the MCU. He's possibly the reason behind Taskmaster too, possibly because his tech could possibly be the reason that Taskmaster can learn all this stuff. Because I don't think it's supposed to be like photogenic memory anymore. It's probably something else. But like, come on. But I mean, I know you don't like Civil War. But this far down the list for the first film in the Phase 3.
Well, if I continue what I was going to say
Sorry.
before I interrupted.
Sorry.
I
feel bad.
So I was talking about how you don't feel bad. I appreciate you going into
Well, this is
detail
what
with
these
that.
lists are for.
Yeah,
is
if we're talking
for
about it,
conversating and a little bit of arguing.
and honestly, I'm enjoying how this, how our conversation is going. Being, it's been a little while since we've done another episode. I actually like being neck and neck with you right now. But so like at the beginning of the movie, right? It kind of made Tony Stark to be like the bad guy, and he was like, we should just do this or whatever, and we shouldn't listen and blah blah blah, and obviously Steve Rogers is not on the same page as him. But my thing is let's say we go later into the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I supposed to feel like I'm on Cap's side after I figure out that Bucky has
about Bucky's
killed? Yeah, he killed Tony's parents, and I'm supposed to still look at like Tony's the bad guy. Like I understand he's a little mad, and yeah, he's punching a guy who is, and like he's trying to hurt and kill a guy who has is not the same person as he was. He wasn't under the same stuff as Winter Soldier and whatnot.
Tony Stark has daddy issues.
But my thing is that I'm not gonna feel. I have to feel bad for the guy who just found out his parents died. I don't care how old he was.
He knew
was
his
30.
parents died.
Yeah, I know, but found out who killed his parents.
Yeah, but
And I'm not. Am I supposed to not feel bad for that? But am I not supposed to feel bad for that?
And I would understand the same. I would feel like angry as well, seeing the fact. But when you realize
let me ask you a question. It is a serious, like, dark question away, and I'm not gonna like bring up anything. But let's say you have someone who you love, right? And they are dead, and someone did it. Let's say, for example, they were under the influence, right? But they did it. In that moment, now let's say not later down the line. In that moment, wouldn't you be mad?
I just said I would be mad.
But I know that's what I'm saying.
It's not the same thing.
I'm not saying it's the same thing.
This is a comic book movie.
I'm not saying it's the same thing.
He's brainwashed.
But at the same time, I'm saying that later down the line in the other movies, doesn't he work with Bucky? Yes.
Not directly.
But I don't like how we're sitting here trying to make Tony look at like he's like this bad guy still
I'm not
after
trying
this.
to.
I'm not saying you are.
But
the movie did. And I was upset about that.
Because it's a Captain America movie.
It could have been
It's
Avengers, and it still would have ended up being the
Avengers
same
movie.
thing. It could have ended up being the same thing.
But come on. He's brainwashed. He didn't know what he was doing, at least partially. He remembers what happens, but he couldn't control himself.
To the good things about the movie. Moving on from that.
I feel like we should wait for the good things till I do my list.
Well, no, I want to talk about the good things for me. Like for
Okay,
me.
do it for you. Do it for you.
Okay,
I know one thing
The
you
good
like.
things for me, let's just go ahead. The airport scene is
Yeah.
one of my favorite action scenes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in Marvel movies in general, in comic book movies in general, in movie scenes in general. That's one of my favorite scenes ever. So that's why it can't be 11 or 10. And that's why I think most of it is over Ant-Man and the Wasp. That scene, to me, is one of the best scenes. And it's
Having
filmed,
Giant Man.
it's
show up for the
filmed
first
great.
time was
It has a
awesome.
lot of comedy in it. It has a lot of action in it. Has a lot of, when War Machine, gets down and stuff like that, it looks, you get, you're torn.
It's
on who
intense.
You
It's
should,
intense.
you get torn on who side you want to be on. And that's everything a movie needs. And
Well,
in that scene that was like 20 minutes long.
And then the introduction of Spider-Man into that into the film
Well,
universe.
that was the next thing, is that Spider-Man is in this, and it's a new Spider-Man with a different actor, and it's, he's one of the best actors who's played it.
Well, and when I was talking about Spider-Man being introduced in this scene, he was introduced earlier in the film. But like, this is the first scene you see Spider-Man
Yeah,
in
the
his new suit with the eyes, which I love, just because comic book accuracy. Same
I mean,
thing with
anything.
Deadpool.
I'm not talking bad about the suit because I actually like the suit, but anything's better than the sunglasses lens.
Yeah, Amazing
Andrew
Spider-Man 1
Garfield
suit
one.
was not my favorite.
I actually liked the suit. I just didn't like the sunglasses thing. Like, the extra blue they put into it was pretty neat.
Well, the fact that they even make fun of it in the film, saying he's running around in a red and blue leotard that he got off of Amazon. Anybody could have tracked that, by the way.
I liked the suit. I just didn't like the lenses. But getting back to that, it was great to see Spider-Man. And even better than that, this is the third actor we've seen play Spider-Man. Let's just talk about this. Black Panther is in this movie. And it's the first actor that played Black Panther. It's the first movie Black Panther was in. It's cool.
Live action.
Yeah, live action. I'm sorry.
There have been many animated.
It's cool. And that's why it is number 9 for me. It's not, it's not 10 or 11. Because it's cool to see Chadwick Boseman in this movie.
And it's cool to see Tom Holland as Spider-Man just because he actually makes it look like he's young. Even though he's like 20-something. He's like 22 or 23 or something like that. But he just looks like he would be a teenager. Except for his body. He's pretty ripped.
Pretty ripped. I'm
like,
jealous.
A teenager of his stature, that's not normal. Oh, typically. I've known tiny little teenagers that have got abs, but they look disproportionate and sickly. Tom Holland doesn't.
He doesn't. But my point is especially with Black Panther, it's just cool seeing him. And then after this he gets his own movie.
Yeah, because the teaser, the end introduces Wakanda right as Bucky's being frozen.
And let me tell you, going off a little bit, the first trailer for Black Panther, amazing. It was just hype right there.
Between that and the first, or not the first, but like one of the trailers, the first trailer that introduced Spider-Man for Civil War, that is one of my favorite trailers. And Infinity War, the first trailer for Infinity War.
Chadwick in Civil War, and then that first trailer, you don't understand how hype I was for that movie. Was the movie is it my number 1? When we get to the next one, no, it's not. But that doesn't mean that it's because of Chadwick. God rest his soul. It's not because of him. It's not because of the writing. It has nothing to do with it. But at that point in time when Black Panther came out, and I will bring this up again, by the point Black Panther came out, I was just excited about Infinity War.
Yeah.
It wasn't because it was bad. I enjoyed the experience I was watching that movie.
It's poor timing with the movies coming out.
It's just the fact that it was Infinity War hype.
Yeah.
And it's not even a filler movie compared to Captain Marvel and stuff or Ant-Man and the Wasp.
No, because it was just
I was excited to see everyone in Wakanda rather than just Black Panther. I was ready to see everyone standing with Black Panther in Wakanda because they had already made the trailer, I think, for Infinity War by then, and we already knew that was going to happen. And I was excited about it. So seeing him in this, in first suit, first everything for Black Panther was the coolest thing, and that's why it's definitely one of my favorite parts of this movie, and that's why it's not my least favorite. But I understand it's a little high compared to what you have on your list. I have no idea where it's at, but that's just how I feel about this movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, even though it's higher on my list, like I was just talking, I had like 3 or 4 positives and like 1 negative. But the 1 negative was the majority of the movie. You get what I mean? So it just became not my favorite movie. But I'd put this over Age of Ultron any day. And I would put this over the original Captain America.
Oof.
I really would.
Big oof. But I'm going to make sure you concluded with your number 9. Because I didn't want to cut you off before I moved on to mine.
I am done with my number 9.
Because I didn't want to cut you off before I moved on to mine. Because
sorry for that long
my
pause.
number 9 is Thor Ragnarok.
Okay.
Because, I'll tell you why. I wasn't a huge fan of the comedy. Taika Waititi. God, I probably butchered that first name. But I'm not. He's a great director. And a good actor. Because he does acting in certain things, mostly. He played Korg in Thor Ragnarok. And Korg in the subsequent films. He has played, I think, was it IG-88 in The Mandalorian. And he played Hitler in Jojo Rabbit, which was also a film of his.
That's a great movie though.
I haven't watched it.
It's great.
Have you watched it?
Yes.
When? You never told me. All
It's a
right,
great movie.
no, I'm not even getting into that. Let me just talk about Ragnarok so I don't get mad. It was too comedic for me, and the reason it's just that is one of the reasons why I'm not that into Thor Ragnarok. It's better than the other few, but for me, it's just it was weird. I think, especially when it comes to Endgame, the decision to get rid of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, was kind of weird. At first, it made me think, oh, they're going the unworthy Thor direction, having him not have his hammer, try to realize his power, and they did that in this film. And then it kind of got pushed back in Infinity War when he had to get Stormbreaker. But like just the fact that, all right, he's got no hammer. You know, he's still a god though. He's got no hammer. His father just died because he basically just let go of his life. He's no longer got Natalie Portman. Tom Hiddleston, Loki. Still don't know about that guy. He may be good, he may not be. We don't know yet.
I don't think you ever find that out, and then he dies, and it's like, man.
No, I mean, like in this film, he was the majority. He was good.
Yeah, but I'm saying like how do you
like,
know he was good? Because like we thought he was super good in Dark World, and then it's like, oh,
it's because he's the god of mischief. But you find out Hela is his sister, and that's kind of a bombshell. And she's just been locked away, you know, for plot reasons. And, you know, he's thrown away to Sakaar, which is a trash world. He finds Hulk. Hulk speaks now. Bruce Banner hasn't been released from the Hulk since 2015. So it was 3 years. I think this movie technically takes place in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Or 2018. It's one of the two. I don't know. Because right after this film, it is legit followed up by Infinity War. So I can't remember when exactly. But
well, this came out in 2017.
I know it came out in 2017,
yeah.
But Infinity War came out in 2018.
You know?
The timeline has been so messed up for me, just trying to figure out when the dates were.
I love the fact that for a lot of it, you know, like when you just think about it on a surface level, it's kind of confusing with the timeline. And then Homecoming did that one thing and just screwed it up even more. And they fixed it.
Even the director said that was a mistake.
And they fixed it. But when we watched it, holy crap!
I was
so confused. It was like what 8 years later after
something like that. Yeah. So it would have made it into 2020.
Yeah, I was like, what?
When it was supposed to be 2017.
They fixed it. I'll give them that. But you know, watching the movie and coming out of the theater, I'm like, why?
Especially 5 years.
Why?
Later. It still messed
me
up.
How did you produce the movie, film the movie, edit the movie?
How did Kevin Feige let that slip by?
Special effects and music and all that stuff. Put out the movie. It went through everything, and yet there was a mistake.
I mean, mistakes happen, but like, especially when it says, I know Kevin Feige is not listening to this, but I wish he was, because how did that get past him? You know what I mean? But
I don't want to yell about it, so I apologize if I was yelling about it. But when you're watching the movie, it's so confusing. But we're not even talking about this movie. We're talking about Thor Ragnarok. But my point is it's confusing.
Still, it is confusing. In Ragnarok, for me, for the most part, the first time I watched it, I was not really paying attention, but I rewatched it. But just the film in general, it was too comedic for me. It worked, obviously, because it's the highest rated movie in the Thor trilogy.
They actually kind of did something right, but most people just
liked some people, yeah.
The comedy.
Yeah, I didn't like the comedy as much. I thought it was forced, but especially when it was, oh my god, the wormhole in the middle of Sakaar. I'm pretty sure it was called the Devil's Anus, is what it was called. Like, come on.
I forgot about that.
Come on. Are you serious right now? It's like low-level comedy. Jeff Goldblum was always he's always amazing. He was in it as the... Crap. I forgot his name. Anyway. Jeff Goldblum is in it. He has a good portion role in the film throughout the middle of the movie. But just like the end battle with Hulk, Thor, Valkyrie, Loki, and Hela. I don't know, man. It was weird. Hela, she's like Thor could not stop Hela. She was actually stronger than him, and the only reason she got defeated was because Sulter was able to start Ragnarok. That's the only reason that she was defeated, and that kind of all right. So that villain's done. You know, she's obviously the strongest villain. She's gone now. That kind of sucks. I don't know. I mean, it was still more enjoyable to watch than Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel, but still, holy crap. And it was cool to see Thor's eye get cut out. That was cool because he gave him the eye patch that they took away, but still cool. But I mean, anyway, moving on to number 8. What is your number 8?
Thor Ragnarok.
Do we need to talk about
it? I wanted to stop you there.
Well, actually, let some of we've kind of talked about.
I just want to say one thing, and it's kind of weird. The last 2 Thor movies, I've been saying something, but I just want to say this movie's kind of sad without Natalie Portman. And the last 2, I'm like, it's not Natalie Portman's fault that we don't really like her in this movie, and now I'm like, I miss her very much.
Yeah. Well, she'll be back anyway.
And she's going to be back. And hopefully this movie will be great.
I'm hoping Kat Dennings is back, too, because her character was freaking hilarious. Darcy. That's her name, Darcy. It was such a good part of the Thor film.
Even though this is my number 8, and I definitely put this Thor movie over Thor 1 and Thor 2, they still haven't made a good Thor movie yet.
We'll
like
see
a really good
Thunder.
Thor movie.
We'll see with Love and Thunder.
And you know, this is obviously recorded before Love and Thunder comes out, but
long before.
Yeah, it's they haven't made a great one yet. One that is memorable, like a Captain America or an Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
So let's shoot for that for the 4th one. But I don't really have much else to say about this movie actually. But it's fine. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
That's the rating. It's fine.
I definitely I'll say this. I like Ant-Man and the Wasp more, but because of it being not as funny and kind of a filler, I have to put definitely this one better than that. But Dalton, your number 8.
I'm gonna get hate for this. My number 8 is Black Panther, but my reasoning is because the main reasoning is, while yes, I did enjoy the film. I enjoyed the majority of these films.
Well, honestly, I don't know why you would get hate because you were just talking about how great it was earlier when I was talking about.
I know, but it's just when I say hate is because it is out of 11 it is 8. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like it would get hate. But the reason is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, just like Captain Marvel, for the most part, just like Wonder Woman, that was praised for being a great film. It's a standard superhero plot. From start to finish. It's standard superhero plot. The hero looks strong. The villain comes in, hurts the hero. By the end, the hero defeats the villain. Basic stuff. Now, the plot itself, it does tackle serious stuff. But, to me, for the most part, it just felt like a standard superhero film. Now, while it does talk about one of the major plot points in there, especially for Killmonger, is heritage. He was not in Wakanda. He's Wakanda royalty. He is the son of the brother of T'Chaka. So technically, they're cousins. Yes, they're cousins. Because T'Challa's mother, Killmonger calls auntie. So they're cousins. And he never grew up in Wakanda. He had stories from his father, and then when his father was killed, he vowed to return to Wakanda one day, just like his father promised him. And Killmonger does hit a lot of points when it talks about racial diversity and equality, because one of his major points was using the Wakandan military and the weapons to distribute it around the world to try to create equality. I think. I could be very wrong, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to be seen as wrong and horrible. I'm pretty sure that was like the underlying tone of that, if
Well-
not explicitly said.
One thing I know this is your part of your ranking, and I don't want to step in, but there's two things I want to say about this movie. Number one, I didn't say it when I was talking about earlier, but Michael B. Jordan's incredible in this movie.
Man, he's a great
He's
actor.
so good.
And, let me say-
redeems himself over Human Torch, which wasn't his fault, but
And let me say, I don't agree with a lot of people. Right after Chadwick Boseman's death, they had said in the second film, have some explanation why T'Challa dies, give him a proper burial, and then they said use the stones to wish back to wish back Killmonger and make him Black Panther. For one, they can't do that because the stones are gone. Two, no. Killmonger was a villain, even though he was portrayed as kind of a
even though at the very end, like right before his
yeah,
death,
like
he
morally
more of
he
a
wasn't a
understanding.
villain because he had questionably good intentions to a certain extent, but he was still a villain, and he would not have made a good Black Panther because even if he was wished back, his actions would still remain the same. It's not like a wish that all of his actions were gone, because then that changes history in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
and honestly,
Shuri would make a much better Black Panther.
actually, that's what I was
than
about,
Killmonger.
I was about to talk about. I was going to say, even though it's hit, as we were talking about earlier, it's sad that Chadwick passed away and can't continue the role as Black Panther, but there is someone else. There's another character that can be a great Black Panther and continue the legacy, and you just said it.
Yeah, Shuri. Because even in the comics, she takes up the mantle as Black Panther because she's
And if you think
next
we were
in
talking,
line.
and if you think we were talking bad about female superheroes earlier, this proves that we are not. Like it really.
Yeah, I mean, like Shuri in the film, she wasn't given a lot of action sequences. She had some, but not a lot.
But she's an important character.
Yeah, she was a very important
nonetheless.
character, especially in Infinity War. She was very important because she was trying to help Vision. Thank God she didn't, get killed off, and she was brought back at the end of Endgame. But I mean, good points in the movie. It was the first. Oh, I'm so sorry. It was the first, besides Blade, the first lead Black character in a superhero movie, and it was the first majority Black cast, because there was only about 3 white characters in the film that were major characters, and that was Andy Serkis as Julius Klaue, Martin Freeman as I don't remember his name. He was an agent, and Stan Lee. And Martin Freeman, if you don't know who that is, he played Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit, and he played Watson in Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. We've talked about Andy Serkis enough. He needs no introduction. And Stan Lee is Stan Lee. We don't need any introduction for him. But like other than that, it was groundbreaking, because there have been films where it's a majority Black cast, but this was the first majority Black cast film for superheroes, and a big blockbuster film, a big budget film, and it made a lot of money back.
And honestly, it really did show that a majority Black superhero movie can be successful. It can be great, and it just overall can be a superhero movie that can stand with all the others.
Yeah. And that's one reason that I praise it. One reason I don't is because of the CGI. Mainly in the final fight scene between Killmonger and Black Panther, because I watched videos by a YouTube channel called Quarter Crew. They're visual effects artists. They do visual effects stuff. They do stunts and different things as well. And one thing that they brought up when they were talking about Black Panther was this fight scene, because you have 2 characters dressed in black in it's a cave deep underground. It's a mine, actually, not a cave. It's a vibranium mine. It's dark. It's pitch black. There's barely any light. The light coming from it is from the train itself. And they look like cartoons because of how bright they have to make the characters, because they're in a black background. Why they couldn't done it on the surface where the other fights were, I don't know. But that could have literally been fine.
I think that the CGI is okay in this movie, but I feel that Infinity War made Wakanda just look so much better, and like what it actually should look like.
Well,
And-
I mean, the city itself was shown more in this, of course, than in Infinity War.
Yes.
But it showed it. These films were done back to back, so they had the visual effects already made, so that they could just reuse it without having any discrepancies. But I mean, like, the majority of the effects were fine. It's just some in the later fight scenes and some in the darker fight scenes. It doesn't. You can tell it's CGI just because the way they're moving. They are moving too fluidly. It doesn't look real at all. It's weird.
One thing I will say, and I know this isn't about the Black Panther movie, but Wakanda in Infinity War is as beautiful as some of the stuff in Avatar. I would debate that.
Yeah, because
I think it's really beautiful, and I think that it just took a couple of attempts for it being shown in Civil War to then being shown in Black Panther and then being shown in Infinity War. It took 2 or 3 attempts to really show what it really could look like, and I think they did a phenomenal job in Black Panther, but I think they did even a greater job in Infinity War to show what Wakanda would actually what the idea of it would be like, and kind of what the comics try to illustrate.
Yeah. But moving on, that was number 8. Number 7. What is your number 7? Because I'm curious to see. Because I know mine.
Spider-Man: Far From Home.
What? Far from. What is your reasonings? I will not get mad.
Well,
I'm actually not mad. I want to put that.
I actually want to bring up a story, and I was talking to our music engineer, Chance, about this a couple weeks ago. We were watching a wrestling event. I think it was after SummerSlam, and I drove him back to his house that night, and we talked about Spider-Man because that's one of his favorite Marvel characters. That's probably my favorite Marvel character, and one thing I brought up to him was that when we went to the movie theater to watch it and we got our tickets and stuff, one guy said, I just want you to know that this movie is like better than Spider-Man 2, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2, right? Not even Amazing Spider-Man 2, but the original Spider-Man 2. And I was actually I was hoping for a great movie, the best Spider-Man movie of all time, and I think that guy made it my number 7.
That's because you can't let people get into.
He got me hyped so quick, and then I got let down really quick.
For one, it's your fault. But 2,
I mean, fair enough.
Honestly, I thought it was better than Homecoming.
I disagree completely. I think Homecoming was fantastic.
Okay. I'm just joking. I'm picking, of course. Well, like, it's your number 7. So, what are some of the reasons you don't like it?
Well, I mean, it's not that I don't like about it.
Well, no, it's higher. It's higher than. So, what are some of the reasons why it is number?
Well,
7?
It has nothing to do with It really has nothing to do with the guy actually saying it was better than Spider-Man 2, which I would say it's still not. But my thing is with it is that it should have been in its own phase. Like, it should have been in the next phase rather than the end of phase 3. Because I feel that, first of all, Endgame should have been the end of phase 3. It should, and then because Far From Home, yes, it's kind of like a closing out of the chapter of Tony Stark and all that. But at the same time, this is Spider-Man's movie. Spider-Man is going to be in the future MCU phases. And Endgame was the end of everything from what we've known from Marvel Cinematic Universe. So why do we need this to be in Phase 3? That's the first thing that I thought about when I walked in, and then I watch it, and it has a lot to do with the death of Tony Stark. If you haven't seen Endgame, I'm sorry that I spoiled that for you.
Well, it's
been over a year and a
so.
half, so I'm sorry, but not sorry at the same time. But it has it deals too much with Tony Stark, but at the same time, I could also disagree with myself on that, because if it wasn't for Tony Stark, we wouldn't have Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, which is a fantastic villain. I think his villain is better than the villains we see in Homecoming. But my thing about this compared to Homecoming is that Homecoming did a different approach on the first Spider-Man movie. It didn't do the whole Spider-Man getting bit and then turning into Spider-Man and thinking everything's weird and all that stuff. It had and there wasn't an MJ at first. There wasn't a Gwen Stacy, and so I thought that was cool about Homecoming. That's why you'll see it later on in my list. But Far From Home, even though it was a great movie, fantastic movie, I think that there's a couple of downfalls to it, and it causes it to not be as good as some of the other ones we see later on in Phase 3. Or we see before this movie in Phase 3, because it's the last one.
Yeah, but,
if you disagree, I understand.
No, I do agree that it shouldn't have been the end of Phase 3. It should have been at least the beginning of Phase 4.
I'm sure when you see my number 6, you're going to say, why did you put that over Far From Home?
We'll see.
But my thing is, a lot of people will say that. But my thing is this, like I said, this is my opinion, but I feel that it's just not as good as Homecoming. It's not as good as the other Spider-Man movies. The only Spider-Man movies I put this movie over is Spider-Man 3 and the two Amazing Spider-Man. Every other movie, this could be better than the original Spider-Man Tobey Maguire movie.
That's your opinion.
I don't know. That's your opinion, man. But it's just my opinion.
I don't want to go into my number 7 without, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm done.
I didn't know.
I can't say anything bad about this movie other than I just feel that it shouldn't have been a part of Phase 3. I think that's the biggest reason why I think that it's a little higher. Also, this can't be compared to things like Black Panther. It can't be compared to things like Infinity War and Endgame. So, it has to be a little bit higher because, for the love of everything, everything that Marvel lovers love, come on. You can't compare it to some of the other movies. You can't compare it to the original Avengers movie. You know what I mean? So it has to be a little higher.
Yeah, but...
But, I want you to go ahead and continue talking because I don't want people to think I hate this movie when I don't. I really don't.
You hate it. I'm joking.
Shut up.
My number 7 is, you're going to hate me, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I really don't hate you that much.
And the only reason it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, is this your number 6?
No, it's not. Not at all.
I wanted to ask and make sure. The reason it's Guardians is because just like with Ant-Man and the Wasp, this was not lived up to as much to the hype as the first one. Not a letdown per se, but it was not as good as the first one in my opinion. And the reason for that was the plot with like the golden people. I can't remember. I don't know what they're called. Like that was a little weird. How they were kind of like the second villains other than Ego, and like the whole plot surrounding them was a little weird. Like they're uptight, so they're not really in battle. But then like their leader is a maniac queen or whatever, and she's just crazy. That kind of threw me off. Ego, I was really hoping for the planet more than just Kurt Russell. I mean, he was great to play it, but I was hoping more of the planet than just a giant brain and a manifestation of him. And the whole plot with him trying to plant seeds everywhere and then make a bunch of kids with a bunch of different alien women and then landing on Star-Lord's mom and him being born. I didn't mean it like that. When I said Landon, I didn't mean like that. You dirty bastard. I didn't mean it like that. I meant like of all the like the planets and the women that he tried to make like offspring so that he could actually make his like scheme work.
Okay, hold up.
He landed on Earth. That makes it sound better. Landed on Earth.
I was like, what did you
chose
mean
Star-Lord's
by that?
mother. I didn't mean that. Like landed on like chose her. Landed on Earth and chose her, not landed on or in her. No. You dirty son gun.
You literally said, I'm sorry for bringing this up, and this is horrible to laugh about, but you literally said landed on Star-Lord's mother.
As in, like, chose her, not like that. You're the
Okay,
only. As
I'm
soon as I
sorry.
said it,
I'm
I
sorry.
saw you
I'm
laugh,
sorry.
and I knew
I'm
that I had to try and defend myself and try to say what I was trying to say. No, landed on her as in he chose her. He chose her to try to make a child with, and that turned out to be Star-Lord, so that he can make his evil plan work. Okay, that whole thing and the reveal that he put the tumor in her head was very sad. Yondu's death was also very sad. I shed a tear. I shed a tear.
Just one.
No, more than one. But in both Guardians movies, because the whole thing with his mother in the first one, and then Yondu's death in the second one. He lost his mother, and remembered her in the first one. Lost his real father, but he didn't care that much. And then his metaphorical father, his father figure, he lost. His daddy, if you will, because he calls him his daddy. Or Yondu says it. But, what are you about to say?
Speaking of metaphorical.
Okay.
Taserface!
Taserface was also stupid. I'm not gonna lie. Dave Bautista's Drax was very funny in this one as well. That was an up. Some of the comedy was forced, kind of like in Ragnarok. But, I mean, overall, it's a good film. It's just, I prefer the first one way more over the second. And I prefer this movie way over some of the other ones in this list. Guardians 2 was good. It wasn't great like the first one, but it was good. It's just, to me, there was certain things here and there that I wish possibly wouldn't have happened. Also, it's never explained in any other film, because this technically takes place in 2014, just like the first Guardians. This takes place literally after the first Guardians. So there's giant random blobs showing up in Missouri. Right? That's where he's from, right? Missouri. Just random alien blob that was destroying stuff and kept growing. This was 2014. This is during Winter Soldier. How come this wasn't brought up in any other film? I mean, I know why, because writing, but come on. It could have been brought up in another film to try to justify what happened, because you're not, like, how is it cleaned up? You know what I mean? Like, I know you had
That poor Dairy Queen.
Yeah, that poor Dairy Queen. You had the thing that Tony Stark made in the films. It was called something else. It was in the comics. It was made to clean up after heroes. Cannot remember what it's called for the life of me. But they clean up stuff. They clean up the hero's mess. But come on, you could have said something. But moving on to the final film in part 1 of the Phase 3 rankings. What is your number 6? Because I guarantee you it's different than mine.
I have a cinematic soft spot for the Benedicts, so it is Doctor Strange.
It's not different then, okay.
Okay.
When revising my list for this one, because if you look at my notes, I actually changed up 3 films, because I remembered that I did have Doctor Strange on this list. I did not have Doctor Strange in the second list. I had to rearrange it with 2 other films. Doctor Strange is on my list for this one. I really want to rewatch this film because I've only watched it a handful of times. It was a good movie, you know what I mean? It was psychedelic. It was weird. One of our teachers didn't enjoy it as much, but she was a huge she's a huge Doctor Strange fan. She didn't really like this film as much, but I thought it was good. Benedict Cumberbatch does a great job as Doctor Strange. He looks the part. He acts the part. He is Doctor Strange. He was born to play this role. The fact that Joaquin Phoenix would have taken over this role if Benedict Cumberbatch couldn't have done it is insane to me. But thankfully he had scheduling conflicts and couldn't do it, so that we could have the Cumberbatch do it. What are just some of the things that you don't like about this film?
Oh, what I don't like about this film? I not even about the film itself. I felt very motion sick after this movie. It was a whole trip, man. I think the colors and stuff in this movie were great. I know that's not a negative. I mean, it kind of reminded me of Avatar. I know I brought that up already, but it reminded me of Avatar. I don't know. I kind of just feel that the movie was more of a basic superhero movie. And I can't think of anything. I really can't think of anything negative to say about it.
A lot of first films are
do follow the basic superhero film stuff, which is true. That is true for almost every single superhero film that's its first film. I mean, I kind of don't like how the guy that turns out to be the villain in the next film, or possibly the villain in the next film, the guy that kind of shows Doctor Strange the ropes at the beginning, how he kind of turns evil. It kind of felt out of nowhere and forced. One thing that I know a lot of people didn't like was the Ancient One, how they turned her into a woman. When
I was
originally,
okay with that.
well, let me continue because it gets worse. Originally, the character was a man, so the gender swap. It's the original character is not white. It is an Asian character. The Ancient One is not white, and they replaced. They made the Ancient One.
Well,
a
yeah, I don't know.
white
If
woman.
I don't know if I agree about that, but
That is one reason a lot of people did not like about that. Now, she did a very good job at playing the Ancient One in this cinematic universe, in this universe in general, because it's not supposed to be 100% accurate to the comics, because it's its own universe. But that is a little bit kind of smudge. It's not. It doesn't look as good.
yeah.
Kind of like how Iron Fist is just whiny white man. I can drag Iron Fist all day.
Yeah.
I haven't even watched it, and I know it was bad. I didn't even want. This is a little tangent. We need to rewatch Daredevil, all 3 seasons. And I want to try to watch The Defenders because I feel like it's not as horrible as it seems. But I don't know. Anyway, I think something good about this film was definitely the Dormammu scene when he came to bargain.
But I mean, at that point, already feeling sick to my stomach because of all the movement in this movie, and you have this thing over and over, and I don't even know how many times
his
it
deaths
happened.
were so. He had the
That
most
was so
graphic
funny.
deaths.
Those were great.
To that point, it was the most graphic death in any Marvel movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
Or
there's
Marvel Studios movie.
anymore, but
Endgame beat that, but Endgame almost beat that worse. It almost had a very graphic death for a certain superhero that sacrificed himself, if you get what I mean. He almost had a very gruesome death. But, it was just, over and over and over again. And the fact that Doctor Strange was taunting Dormammu with this spell. It's like, you can keep killing me, but we're going to keep doing this forever. Earth's going to live. I may die millions of times, but me and you are going to keep doing this forever, all eternity. That was interesting. It was interesting to see Dormammu show up. Even though he was technically the big bad, but wasn't shown for most of the film. Even though his minions were the villains for most of it. It's interesting to see how he's going to return. There is no way that he's not going to show back up. Because he's still alive. He's still out there. There's no way. Yes, he made a pact with Doctor Strange not to return to Earth. But the Sorcerer Supreme was gone for 5 years. Dormammu, I don't think technically is a living being, like a human. He possibly wasn't snapped away when Thanos snapped. He could still be around. He could have came to Earth at any given point because the Sorcerer Supreme was gone. Nobody could have stopped him. If the Avengers were broke up anyway, nobody could have stopped him. It's very interesting to see if he will come back. I'm hoping. But we'll have to wait for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to see. Because I think one of the villains introduced is going to be Nightmare. But also, I know that the set-up villain from the first film is going to be in the second film. I know. That should be a solid fact. What do you think?
Oh, I agree.
I think Cumberbatch will do a good job in the sequels. He's done a great job.
Oh, yeah.
He's only been in 3 Marvel films.
Yeah.
And has done a great job. But, do you have anything else to add?
It's a good movie. It's definitely not my favorite, but I have nothing against it. There's nothing bad about it.
Yeah, there's
Really,
nothing bad about
It's
the film.
basic, but there really isn't. There's no visual flaws, really. There's no plot flaws besides it just being basic. There really isn't anything bad about this. There's nothing great about it compared to some of the Avengers movies, or maybe even Homecoming, as you will see later on. Or, I mean, I definitely wouldn't put this over the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put this over Avengers. I wouldn't put this over.
It's in the middle.
I would never put this over Winter Soldier. You know what I mean?
This is heavily in the middle. Gotta be. But
this is one of those. It's good, but I could live without watching it again.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time,
I want to
watch it again. But like stuff like that, like it's not bad, but it's like one of those okay next movies.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see more to come with Avengers and stuff like that. Kind of the same with other characters and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
kind of like how it was with Black Panther, because it was just like the only reason why, like I said earlier, was because it only had to do with the fact that it was right before Infinity War, and I was already excited to see Infinity War. And I was like, I want to see Black Panther with everyone, and so it just like I was saying, it just has to do with him being by himself, and I want to see him with everyone else. So yeah, good movie though.
But I think that will conclude Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Part 1. We will be covering Part 2 in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. Hopefully not too long.
Not as long as the last
Yeah,
time,
not as long as
so.
the last time. By the time you're hearing this, we might already be working on the second part. Hopefully. I'm hoping.
Before we go, though, Dawn, talk to them about what we'll be seeing besides the MCU, what we're going to see in the near future for the LED podcast.
Well, hopefully for the LED podcast.
As long as everything goes well.
Yeah, as long as everything goes well, hopefully we will be seeing episodes talking about some of our favorite directors from film, including controversial directors like Zack Snyder and praised directors like Steven Spielberg. I know in a future episode, I definitely want to cover some of the timelines regarding Back to the Future and how the timelines were messed up in that film and how the timeline in the MCU was messed up. I know I definitely want to talk about that. I also want to shift focus from just films and comic books to more video games. I know we were discussing some things about some of the titles we wanted to talk about, possibly rankings, possibly just talking about the titles in general, including some of the Call of Duty franchise, some of the GTA franchise, and other films, rather other games here and there. I know I would definitely love to talk about some of the historical games like the Assassin's Creeds. I would love to try to rank some of the Assassin's Creed games, because a lot of them, maybe not even rank them, but just have like a deep dive into them and the lore of Assassin's Creed. I would really love to do that. And like we talked about earlier, we want to do rankings of Star Wars films. We want to do the rankings of the Harry Potter films. Might wait a little bit longer for that, just for reasons. And I know I want to start talking about expanded Star Wars universe. Mainly, I want, in the near future, Revan. Talk about Darth Revan. He is one of the most liked characters from Star Wars Legends and Star Wars The Old Republic. So I'd really love to get some episodes done on stuff like that, to where we can deep dive into the lore and not really do rankings, and just talk about that kind of stuff. Kind of like we do over on our other podcast, the Ellie Do Wrestling podcast, where we talk about professional wrestling and wrestlers from all different promotions. You can expect to see a new episode on that in the near future as well. But we will definitely have part 2 up in the near future. I want to give a quick shout out to our music engineer, Chance, at chance.cummings.507 on Instagram. And you can follow me on Instagram at LADobrand.
You can follow me on Instagram at ClintonWells01.
And I think that'll do it. We will see y'all in the next episode.
Wakanda forever.
Peace.